Go to Stanford, and you're going to get your MBA, and then you decide to leave and drop out of Stanford to go to this tiny startup in Seattle area called Microsoft. What did your father say about that?
Oh, he was apoplectic in a way. I mean, he didn't try to stop me, but I remember when I called home and my dad said, "What the heck is software?" He'd actually been involved installing Wang systems, old word processors, but what's software? And then my mom said, "Why would a person ever need a computer?" Now, today you'd say that's crazy, but it wasn't crazy in 1980. But they said, okay, we hear you, we hear you. If it doesn't work out, you go back to business school, right? I said, right, and then never came back.
So the summer ends and you stay there, and you're the 30th employee of Microsoft, and ultimately you become, I guess, next to Bill Gates and Paul Allen, the biggest shareholder. What were the jobs you had as you worked your way up?
Well, I started out as assistant to the president. I was Bill's assistant, basically, chief cook and bottle washer. So I set up the accounting, which there was some, but we needed to professionalize. I was the HR department. I hired everybody. When IBM came the first time about their personal computer, I became the kind of salesman on IBM. Why? I knew how to wear a tie. I was about the only guy around the place, and Bill said, "Well, you have a tie and a suit. Why don't you come to the meeting?"
So when did you realize this isn't a little startup that's going to be a nice little company in one part of the software world? It's going to be a dominant company in the world.
By the late 80s, I would say for sure, I knew the company's going to be something. I remember when Andy Grove, who ran Intel, said, "Someday there'll be 100 million computers a year sold." Bill and I looked at each other and said, "He's nuts. There's never going to be 100 million. And these days, there's 300 million plus computers sold a year."
And your father and mother, what did they say at this point?
Yeah, and they got comfortable when we went public. They knew I wasn't going to be broke. Bill actually offered me a decent starting salary. It was either 40 or 50 grand, I can't remember, which looked good in that day and age. So they knew that was a good choice. Now, my dad still had a little skepticism. There were all these people, and there was nothing physical. You could get what do all these people do? There's no product. What do they all do? So that was a confusing point. I mean, he's a smart guy, but he'd always ask me that every time we went through the campus.